of the Imperium.
Hello and welcome to Ashes of the Imperium. My name is Dan, and this time I'm not joined by Steve or Gary. I'm joined by the wonderful, the one and only Steve Conlin, who you may also know as his alter ego, James Workshop.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast, Steve.
Thank you for having me.
That's quite all right, quite all right. We were just discussing before we started recording about how you've been inundated with requests for podcasts.
Yes, I'd forgotten how much people love me.
Well, I mean, it's a tough problem to have, right?
It's exhausting, honestly. You try to put people off as much as you can, but I'm irresistible. So
I've been trying to put people off for 30-something years, so
hard work.
yeah, I know. It's
work.
dedication to the cause. So, Steve, for those who may not be familiar with who you are, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I am Steve. I am an actor. I'm the actor that Games Workshop, in a moment of madness, decided they wanted me to portray their mascot and real life CEO James Workshop. I was working for them for a few years doing like audio dramas and animations and other stuff such as that. But yeah, now I'm the face of the company internationally, and every now and then one of my friends or family will see my face on a thing and they will go, why are you on a sign in Turkey? What is that? And I have to explain.
It's funny. Sometimes you see on like Reddit, people that have done stock photography, and they're like, I did this one photo shoot once 10 years ago, and now I'm the face of a intimate gel cream.
Yeah. Or now the Guardian keep using that one picture I did whenever they want to talk about someone cheating on their husband.
Oh,
yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh dear, terrible. So, what's the favorite thing you've worked on in your past, specifically with Games Workshop?
My favorite thing, that's difficult. I think the best thing I did was the Realm Slayer, the Gotrek Gurnason audio drama with Brian Blessed.
I was going to say, yeah, wasn't that? So I was like, fairly certain that was Brian Blessed, but fine, whatever. If you want to take that, I'll just change IMDb, shall I?
No, it was starring Steve Conlin and Brian Blessed.
Supported by Brian Blessed.
Officially that order, yeah.
Good.
And then everyone else was in alphabetical order, but for some reason my name was at the front. But yeah, I got my nose bitten off by... Saying you got your nose bitten off by Gotrek is cool, but being able to say you got your nose bitten off by Brian Blessed is maybe even cooler.
Yeah, I think that's something for the CV, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
There was an amazing... I went around the Warhammer World Museum the other day, and I saw the diorama of Gotrek and Felix like jumping out of an old world house. Do you know the one I mean?
I do, yeah.
And it's just and again we were talking about like I've got to stop talking about more time. Like I swear I just need to create.
You don't.
No, I don't have to. I just feel like perhaps I need to make like an old world / more time podcast where I can just channel all my energy for that world into that rather than bringing it up constantly in a 40k podcast. But we'll roll with it. So going back to the diorama, it had so many little Easter eggs and so much story and richness to it that personally I feel Age of Sigmar doesn't. Age of Sigmar, great as a game, lovely models, the freedom of round bases and lack of rank and flank does create some amazing design opportunities. But for a world, I think the old world that kind of is clearly made from so much of our cultural history, it's so easy to relate to that as a human in the 21st century, whereas the kind of like multiverse vibe of Age of Sigmar I think has less of that, and also it clearly has less I haven't grown up with it as a child, so clearly the rose tinted spectacles are on as well.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it, to try and like work out whether it's just the fact that we're old and stubborn and don't like change, or whether like there is something that hasn't quite clicked.
Yeah,
I was listening to someone who I thought was very clever when they were talking about the fact that they were talking about the importance of maps and how the old world, even though it is just like someone did a very bad tracing job of the globe.
Yeah, it's like my primary school geography drawings.
But exactly that, yeah. but what it does give anyone who wants to get invested in that world is a sense of like relativity.
Mm.
Like if someone says, "Oh, I travelled from Coron to Altdorf," you can go, "Gosh, I have no idea what that means." But if you have a map in front of you, you're like, "That's a long way, and there are mountains in
Mm.
the way." Age of Sigmar, and specifically the Mortal Realms, because it's that like astral, almost like the nine realms of kind of Asgard and Midheim and that sort of, because it's that sort of map where there isn't a very easy, quickly accessible sense of like relativity and space. They were making the argument that it makes it that much more difficult to get invested because it's just not quite as tangible. And I was like, well, that makes sense. And then I
I,
thought, I kind of just miss I kind of just miss lizard men and and the knights and the big guns.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I know what you mean, and also the sense of scale. I suppose it's like, when someone says, "Oh, that's as big as a football field," most
mm,
people are like, "Okay, cool." Like, I
I
know
can
how
picture
much.
that.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
picture that. I know what a football field. Personally, I'm not a football person, but I know soccer is a very popular game.
football
Um,
fields are very good for that one specific thing, though.
I know, right?
We like give credit where it's due. They gave us all a good mental measurement.
Oh yeah, like if double-decker buses hadn't been as good at transporting people, then at least it could have been a measurement. But like,
Exactly.
soccer ball, fine, is a big, people get really excited about the competition that runs every now and then. But fine. For
No,
me,
no,
as,
because you can say roughly as big as a head, and that does it. So you didn't need to invent the soccer ball for that. But
that's true. That's true.
but the football field definitely was a useful addition to the culture. Not so much the game, but
Oh no, I was just being facetious and referring to football as soccer ball, just to hopefully kind of get a rise out of some of the listeners. But
mm,
as an aside, for me, football, the best bit about that is when there's a really important World Cup game on, the roads are really empty, so that's the best time to drive anywhere. That's my own personal
okay,
advantage that I
yeah,
take during those. But as an aside, when someone's like, "Oh, that's as big as two football fields," like, okay, good, yeah, that's fine.
yeah,
But when you're so far away from something, or something is so big, it's almost like there's no point of reference. And I think the
yeah,
closest thing that I can compare this to, slightly weird flex, is skydiving. So if you're high up on the third or fourth story of a building and you look over
mm,
the edge, you're like, "Oh, that's quite high. I can imagine that would be pretty painful if I fell off." Or you're maybe at the top floor of a block of flats, 20 stories up. You're like, "Wow, that's that would be me dead, if I fell off here." But when you're at like 13,000 feet or something, and you look out of a plane window, you're like, this just looks like Google Maps. I have no, yes, I'm scared as a human, because I'm scared because I understand the concept of this not necessarily being the best idea that I've ever had. But you are so far up that you're just like, this just looks like a satellite picture. So I have no reference of scale. I can't see any people. I can't see any cars. I can just see an effectively a really really high fidelity ordnance survey map. And for me, the Mortal Realms is that is you are so far away from anything that's relatable or measurable that it's hard to connect to it.
I get that. That makes sense. Yeah,
So so scrolling all the way back to that,
yeah,
the Gotrek of Phoenix House is really cool because it's got Skaven in it. But then you look around the back, you can see like a kind of portrait of Dorian Gray esque uh, portrait of a vampire, and it's just
mm,
it really got in the kind of Warhammer feels for me.
I mean, yeah, I I don't think I need to encourage people to go around the museum. Like, it's great, and everyone
It's
should
so
go
good.
in and
It's
have a
so
look.
good.
Yeah,
I
but
actually went on a date there once.
wow,
I know, right?
it was that a good idea
It
or
was. It was. Yeah, yeah.
well, all right then.
I think it was second or third, in fact. No, third date. Yeah. When you find someone that's willing to be dragged around the One World Museum, that's you're onto a keeper, right?
Just lock them in the basement, never let them go.
Enough about your weekend activities, Steve. So, talking of the Warhammer World Exhibition, what's your kind of your favorite diorama or scene or
I
room?
mean, can anyone honestly say it's not the big one? The big one, the huge one that you had to walk all the way around and
The
down a
one where
flight of
there's
stairs.
apparently an assassin in there.
Yeah, that's the one. With the one with
Lies.
the one with the
I've never
actual
seen it.
smoke.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, so
can
good.
and like it's everything in the museum is cool, but that's the one that I get excited when I'm in the museum with new people who haven't been in the museum yet, because that's the one where they always go like
Yeah, like
everyone.
it's
Yeah,
so wow, isn't it? And there's a
it's so
great
wow.
example of something that's big enough for you to appreciate the scale, but not so overwhelming that
Yeah,
that you just go, oh my god, there's just too much stuff.
exactly. Um, but yes, I get excited about that one because I know what's coming, and I know it never fails to elicit an audible reaction from people. So I really like that one.
I randomly ran into one of the curators in that room, in fact, and they were saying how the light changes, and it's a kind of it goes from red to blue, the sort of a blue
Hmm.
tinted light and a red tinted light. And
Yeah,
she was saying how that's an intentional set of colors because clearly this is Ultramarines versus Khorne demons.
yeah.
Um, and or chaos in general, but the red insinuates that the demons, the powers of chaos, are winning, and when it goes to blue, it kind of highlights or brings out all the Ultramarines, and it feels like that they're more populous on the board. And
So
she
it
said
makes
she
it
was saying
feel
how like it
dynamic.
feels like the battle is sort of raging and being
Mm,
waged in front of you. And I thought that was really cool.
just very clever,
Like
isn't
what
it?
a really clever trick to like
Yeah,
highlight different kind of the two different factions on the board.
yeah, yep. All I
So
do
let
is shout into a microphone.
yeah, all these
It's
clever
very,
people with their
it's
fancy
very
lights.
humbling. It's very humbling when I go there and I see people do things, and I'm like, oh god, gosh, that's good. Anyway, back to screaming. Yeah.
Talking of screaming, let's get onto the character itself. As much as you can say within the realms of whatever purity seals or NDAs you've signed with Games Workshop. But tell us a little
He's
bit
just a
of.
very private person.
He's just a very lives in a cabin in the woods. I mean, to tell us a little bit about the character of Games Workshop. Wrong character of James Workshop.
The character of James Workshop. Well, that's an interesting one because I feel like he's different now to when we first started. He was just kind of a bit of a joke. And now, I mean, now he may as well be the real life CEO of Games Workshop. He is a completely three-dimensional. No, I can't even pretend that that's true. he
There's just so much depth.
he is an almost three-dimensional character, with dreams and nightmares and a cat.
What's the cat called?
The cat is called
Wasn't it
Mordheim.
More Time? Oh yes, I
Mordheim the
do.
cat.
Wasn't that within one of the recent Christmas ones?
No, that was a deleted scene
Oh
that I
wow!
gave everyone a little tease of on Twitter.
Ah,
So yeah, if you want the full James Workshop experience, you actually have to come follow me on Twitter.
like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to click the affiliate links.
Yeah, just a tiny plug there.
Oh,
But
if this goes up on YouTube, I'll just flash at Steve Pendus,
that's
and
the one.
that's
Yeah.
Steve without an e at the end. I'll flash it up on the screen and you maybe do a little box out button. But my YouTube skills are
Something
somewhat
something
nascent at this stage.
the most obnoxious the better, frankly.
Oh yeah, perhaps
Yeah.
with like in like Comic Sans.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Underlined
Okay.
twice. Yeah.
Underline twice. With do you remember was this word where you could like have sparkly writing, as in
Sparkly
like
Comic Sans. Yeah.
almost like you know how like
And
I,
just a bunch of clip art just thrown at the
oh
screen randomly.
oh yeah, and
It's
almost
gonna be so
like a bad
disappointing now.
MySpace page.
Yes. Oh, yes, with flashing banners.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna be
Yeah.
really
Okay.
disappointing for the viewers now if you don't pull this off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we are primarily an audio podcast. So this will be probably the third or fourth video that actually goes on our brand new, which is Steve, we're doing really well here. So everyone at Steve Pendus, without a second e on Steve, clearly that's where people need to go on Twitter, and we're
Hmm.
talking about the at AOTI40K YouTube channel that is brand new, where we're uploading all of our new videos and some of our back catalogue as well. This is a great little bit of, we have segued into the most gratuitous self-promoting bit of this is almost like an ad. Should we put
Well,
hashtag ad here?
we are talking about a man who was entirely created, birthed even for the purpose of PR.
Well,
So this is very
then
fitting. This
absolutely
is what
abs.
James would want.
This is what James would want. So what you talked about him being created
Yeah.
and he's developed as a character.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of inspirations or
Yes.
if I may, a
Go
touch
on.
of Steve Berry?
Who?
Steve Berry, is it Steve Berry who's in the IT Crowd?
The Irish guy.
Oh God, I'm getting it wrong now, aren't I? And in What We Do in the Shadows,
Steve
Matt
Berry.
Berry. No, Matt Berry, isn't it?
Matt.
As in Toast of London,
Hang on.
Mighty Boosh.
Mighty Boosh. You mean Julian Barrett?
No, Matt Berry.
Matt Berry.
Steve, I combined Steve Conlin and Matt Berry. And
The
came up with Steve
Nickelodeon
Berry.
presenter.
Was he Nickelodeon? He was on the IT Crowd. Well, I mean, clearly not that much of an inspiration because I'm like, I can see some similarities there.
No, yeah, lots of people say that I'm doing a Matt Berry ripoff, and it's very annoying. So I never pretend to. I always pretend.
Oh,
to
you actually
not.
had me there. You had me.
Yeah.
I was like, how has Steve never heard of Matt Berry?
Yeah. Well, it's particularly annoying because the inspiration for James Workshop was a few different people, but one of the people that stuck out in my head was it's not Dennis Renham, but Denham Renham, Chris Morris, not Matt Berry. Matt Berry's dad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Are you stressed? Are you stressed, Jen? Are you stressed? That's the guy. That's the guy. That's the guy I think I ripped off.
Okay.
And I was very surprised when everyone turned around and was like, he's ripping off this guy. I was like, how did they get the right show but the wrong character?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But, I think that maybe Matt Berry's the more, he's kind of more lodged in the kind of social consciousness, isn't he?
He's a lower common denominator, I'll grant you.
That's what everyone wants to hear about their characters. You actually had me there. I was just like, how is this? I'm gonna have to explain Matt Berry. Oh God, how much of this we're gonna cut out? But yes, so what is it do you think that kind of characters like James Workshop, like Den and Redham, kind of resonate with people? And Matt Berry, I think he's in that place where like the characters he's playing Matt Berry. It's the same as Deadpool. Who is it? Ryan Reynolds who plays Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds just plays Ryan Reynolds these days, doesn't he? And I think Matt.
Oh, hang on. No, I agree to something I absolutely don't agree with. Then Ryan Reynolds is a brilliant actor. Boo on you.
Oh no doubt. But
how dare you say that about my good friend,
Ryan Reynolds? No doubt, clearly very talented man. These days, the
oh no, from the
roles
beginning,
you see,
he's always ever played the same part.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And all credit to him. You've obviously got to play that part well to get to where you are.
It works, man.
Or have famous parents or however it works in Hollywood. But that kind of character, that kind of in fact, well, rather than me describe the character, how would you describe the character?
How would I describe James?
Yeah.
Oblivious. But I think the important I think it's interesting, right? So there is a lost James Workshop tape.
This sounds dangerous.
Yeah. And basically what happened was we shot a Christmas advert, and we watched it back and we didn't like it. And there were other things wrong with it. But the main thing was that James just kind of came off as mean in it. Because he's usually rude and abrasive and difficult and ignorant and all of the things. But you generally, I feel, get a sense from him that he means well, and everything he does comes from a place of genuinely wanting you to get your Christmas presents. That's James, very vaguely. And I think the character doesn't work if you don't, on some level, go, oh yeah, but he's all right, He doesn't mean it, because the moment you feel like he means it, it's like, oh, I feel like we're watching a different thing now.
Yeah, he transforms into a kind of a lovable cad and bounder to just genuinely a quite an obnoxious, horrible person. Because there are, I suppose that there are lots of people like that in real life who are quite self-serving, who are quite
and I almost made the mistake of just saying out loud what we're skirting around, which is that if you take away that what's nice about James, what you get is the people who are currently running the country.
You get the Tory politician. I was just about to say. I was like, oh, how far do we want to go into politics in this?
How do we?
So here we go. Right, let's hit that. And I'm saying this as a a straight, cisgender, white, public school educated male from the south of England. Like
Yeah.
I recognize, I suppose like I recognize my privilege, to kind of coin a phrase, but
Good for you.
and it's something that I think you don't realize, as a kid, you don't necessarily realize that you act in a certain way, and you perceive life through a very specific lens, and you perceive the world through a very kind of 2020 vision lens, because the world has been created for you by people like you.
Yes.
And when you look at, whether it's a kind of like out of touch, not talking about James Workshop here, but like whether it's like an out of touch, aggressive profit chasing CEO that you see in as a movie villain, someone that's
Hmm.
chasing the bottom line at the expense of the workers, or whatever it might be, or you look in real life for examples, and you see people flouting rules that they've aggressively enforced through law enforcement, etc., etc. There's something, I think, for me, that's why people like characters like James Workshop, because
Absolutely.
it's poking it's delivered in a different style, but it is poking fun at people like that. And the every person can't necessarily oust the people in charge, except for obviously the democratic vote, but that doesn't, obviously you don't always get what an individual person wants. You get what the majority of the country wants. So to have a character that in a light-hearted way pokes fun at this sort of out of touch, privileged icon, representing
Mm.
all the things that we find frustrating in the world. I think that's quite interesting.
It's very interesting and ceaselessly uh, baffling as to why they let me do it. I think I don't know. I think it was a very good initial idea. I think that has sort of taken on a life of its own. And I think, yeah, like especially because like we started James Workshop like 5-6 years ago now. And it feels like it was a different time. Like it was pre-coronavirus. It was 4 prime ministers ago. I feel like the James that we have now, who is absolutely on some level, and like it's not just us. Like I see a lot of YouTube comments and stuff saying, "Oh, it's so good that they have a comedy Tory in charge of Games Workshop now." Like that's like I see that comment a lot, which is why
Oh.
I'm not massively afraid of just saying it out
Yeah, yeah.
loud.
I was thinking it, and I was like, oh, are we going to go down this, like, trying to stay off politics and whatever, but no, I think you're right. And are you familiar with Rosie Holt, the comedian?
Yes,
She
I
does an
am. She's
amazing. I can't
brilliant.
remember what it is, but it's like Amelia Huntley Brewer Hart the third or something. Her
Yeah.
MP character.
Yes.
Yeah,
She's
an
she
absolutely
she's great,
perfect,
and
perfect.
and yes, I think the reason that her character works so well is because you sit there and infuriatingly you know that she means well.
Hmm.
She's just so kind of like unanchored from reality, and
Yeah.
that's
Oh, yeah,
James.
absolutely.
That's James entirely. Um,
My favorite is when you see people commenting and be like, "This is why, what constituency are you in charge of? This is outrageous," and you're like,
yeah.
"Oh, they haven't clicked on her profile,"
Mm.
and like and that is the best bit about it, but also the worst bit about it is that the best bit about it is people are kind of like jumping and be like, "This is outrageous! This actual MP saying these things. That's how out of touch you are as a Tory politician." At the same time, it's absolutely tragic that there are people out there that think that this ridiculous character that this person is playing could be a legitimate person.
Sure, but there are people out there who, probably the same people, who believed that TikTok video was an actual giant.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I mean, what is it like? It's like 30% of people believe in angels.
Next, you're going to be telling me Santa doesn't exist.
Well, no, obviously not, because he
Oh,
is
thank,
real,
thank
and
heavens for
he
that.
and he does bring presents. That just he's just slightly more capitalist than we all thought. But yeah, like I agree. In summation, I agree, and James is an interesting case study in like how it's almost impossible for there not to be in times like this, when you have a country in a place where ours is at the moment. It's impossible just impossible for everything not to eventually start orbiting politics.
Mm-hmm.
And that's there's a bit of that with James. Like, we had to be very careful about, again, how cutting he was.
Yeah.
um we had to be very careful to make sure that it always came from a place of stupidity.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And genuine light-hearted humor
yeah,
/ good intentions, rather than being mean-spirited, as you say.
yeah, or even just apathetic.
Mm.
It had to be an overwhelming desire to do it right. It had to be the reason that always went wrong. And that's what it's supposed to be like anyway.
I love it. I love it. Most importantly, perhaps, what breed of cat is Mordheim?
Mordheim is a dire cat, I think.
A dire cat.
I think that's what we went with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All black.
No, very grey.
Oh.
Big and grey. It's difficult because if you see the picture, like, a Mordheim looks like a big cat, but obviously isn't is made small. Is made to look smaller by the fact that I'm holding him, and I'm about 9 feet tall, so it looks like an ordinary sized cat. But yeah, no, Mordheim's an absolute monster. Played by the very good actor Potato.
Oh, what an absolute angel. Shout out to Potato.
Yes.
When's that reel coming out? That's what I want to say.
Oh,
So
what, his show reel, you mean?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. At
So,
this rate, Potato will be getting another agent before I do.
oh, fair one. And
Mm.
and all credit to him or her. What an
I mean,
absolute...
yeah, he deserves all the success he gets. He stood on the shoulders of giants. So
Mordheim, is that a name you chose? Is that a subject that's particularly close to your heart?
Mordheim, of course, is a subject that is close to my heart. Yeah, I picked the name Mordheim. I think my cat came into the room and we were just messing about and we shot a bunch of scenes with Mordheim, or Potato, because that was the video that I had to do in this room at my house during lockdown, with poor Kerry on the other end of a Discord call going, yeah, that looked great. The green screen's falling down again. So yeah, but yeah, it's interesting. There's a big team of people. I say big. There's a bigger team of people that work on James Workshop than you would think. Or maybe not. Maybe it's a smaller team than you think. I don't know many you think. But it's nice. We have a system now where everyone gets a bit of input. Like, a lot of the stuff that ends up in the videos is never written down. It's just stuff that we're coming out with in the room, or stuff that I'm vomiting out, and whether or not people laugh in the room is whether or not it stays in the video usually. But yes, shout out to the team, because they do a very good job of both making sure it's funny and also making sure I keep my job.
I think that's something that Duncan, he of Two Thin Coats fame, made
Hmm.
super abundantly clear. Certainly in his new venture, but definitely when he had the opportunity whilst working at Games Workshop, was that he had kind of become the kind of de facto face of Games Workshop from a kind of hobby perspective, and all the memes and stuff. And he was always resolute about highlighting Roger's work.
Yes.
And this is something that, I met Duncan way back at Salute, like, oh goodness, like 2013 or something, ages ago.
Hmm.
Oh God, that's a decade ago. That's tragic. Yeah, and he was, he was even then was kind of really humble about, I suppose, the fame, and that stayed with him consistently through all these kind of the external engagements. When you saw him, he was always highlighting, it's not just me, it's a team, and it would highlight people like Roger. And I think that is important.
Yeah, I
To
mean,
recognize that, but behind every great character is a is a whole host of people that support it.
yeah, and it's true, because I mean, you look at it now when he's kind of left the team behind, and his stuff is all awful now.
We'll stick that on a quote as the
Yep. No, Duncan's a good guy. Though, of course, officially, I have no idea who you're talking about.
naturally,
Yeah.
absolutely. There are no other paints but the Citadel ones. So talking a little bit about hobby in general, was Warhammer something that you were super passionate about and you were like, I can't wait to do something for Games Workshop? Or is it something you kind of fell into and developed a hobby love as a result? Tell us a little
That
bit about that.
yeah. So another really long-winded answer. I was super passionate about it when I was younger. I think, like, obviously, I've given myself away as an enormous fan of Mordheim, the game. Um, but yeah, fantasy battles. I had something like a 9,000, 10,000 point undead army before it all got split up into
Nice,
vampire counts
nice.
and tomb kings.
Can I interrupt there slightly and sort of can you tell us a little bit about that army?
Well, obviously, it was led by Clown Nagash.
Naturally, on a
Um,
40 mil Goblin Green base.
yep, yep. Though I think his base was red. In my particular Nagash. But yeah, it's, Vlad, Isabella, Conrad, Arkan. I had a unit of mummies. I had some skeleton spearmen. I had some vampire cavalry. Wait, no, no, no. I had some white cavalry and some skeleton horseman cavalry. I had a couple of screaming skull catapults. I had some chariots. The list goes on and on. I had a zombie dragon.
That zombie dragon was a great model, wasn't it?
It was great. It
It
was
was so
great.
good.
I had Heinrich Kemmler and Krell, though obviously we
Do you
now
mean
know.
Necromancer in hat?
I do mean Necromancer in hat. Yes, I do mean
Or is
Necromancer
it
in hat.
perhaps with hat? With hat. He's not always in it. Sometimes he doffs it. Sometimes he dons it.
Yeah,
It's just he's that kind of whimsical necromancer.
I think
Cuts his own detail.
yeah, yes. I think I always think back bitterly now that we know that Heinrich Kemmler ended up not being a ride or die necromancer. I
Say
always think
what?
I always think back bitterly to wow how he was so cherished in my army. Oh well, but yes, it was just a massive army basically.
Hmm.
If they made an undead model, I had a version of it because I just thought the undead was so cool, and I was right, you know. And then yeah, I think like a lot of people, I kind of built this ridiculous hoard of plastic and metal, and I think I ever played one battle with it ever, and and then packed it away and never looked at it again.
Yeah, classic. So here's a question, Steve. What do you call your mass of unused, uncompleted items? I'm trying not to use any of the words in either of the two options, but
eBay fodder, I think, is my term
eBay
for it.
fodder. Oh, okay. So I'm think the go-to two would be pile of shame or pile of potential.
Oh, I see. I see what you mean.
But
Yes.
by absolutely, as someone that is a almost a professional eBayer at this stage, the thing is, I'm like, oh, I would quite like. Let's think. I would. Oh, here's an example. Like, oh, I would quite like some more Acadian ordnance weapons batteries. That would be really cool. I'm like, well, currently they're not out, and they are currently on pre-order. You can of course head to the Ashes of the Imperium Element Games affiliate link to order them. But more importantly, oh, every day is a PR moment.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, I could wait 2 weeks until or some weeks until they're available for pre-order, or I could just buy another box of Cadia stands, and but then I'll eBay the rest because I don't need it. There's a codex in there that's not available
Exactly.
yet. I'll eBay that. Blah blah blah. And I can literally see the box. I can see both boxes opened. And now pre-orders are up. Who's going to buy like some random secondhand, unused models when you could just, buy them new from Games Workshop these
Someone
days?
will. Someone
So,
will.
but then
Someone wants every part of that box but the ordnance.
oh yeah,
You know
exactly.
they do. You know they do. In the same way that someone wants 3.5 broken skeleton chariots from 11 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh God, 15 years ago. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, or something like that.
Skeleton chariots. Now, chariots definitely are a Tomb King vibe, and now you're talking in my kind of business.
Well,
My
you
my,
see,
be- my best mate Chris was the kind of vampire counts kind of guy, and
yeah,
I was definitely like, all that bone and turquoise, the kind of Egyptology of it all. You
but this is it.
shabty, you shabty.
See, this is all after my time.
Oh,
I think it was actually the fracturing of undead into vampire counts and tomb kings that kind of properly broke me out of the hobby. Because I then had like 2/3 of an army and a third of an army, and I looked at them and went, I'm not starting again.
now I would have gone. Oh, what a great opportunity to build 4,000 points of each force.
Mm. Yeah, see, that's it. I think at that point was when someone kind of put Dawn of War in front of me, and I was like, "Ah, this is easier.
Yes.
This is much
Oh.
easier."
And I love that when they, after the success of Dawn of War 1, they made a great version, building on the success of Dawn of War 1, that was
If
Dawn of War
you
2,
if you blaspheme against Dawn of War
which was
2,
like and then Dawn of War 3 was even better, right?
Dawn of War 3 will live in our hearts, much like a knife.
Yes,
Um,
embedded. Will
yeah,
never if you take it out, then the body will die.
that's interesting though. Do you see Dawn of War 2 as similar?
No, no, I'm being a facetious little minx.
'Cause
Dawn of War 1 is the best version.
that's fair. That's a fair opinion to have. It's wrong, but it's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah, okay.
Dawn of War 2 is by far the best game in the series. And I'll tell you why. Because it is the perfect prototype for a wartime game.
Ooh,
Because if you
ooh.
picture that campaign where you
Yeah.
have like 4 units, or is it like it's like 4 characters
Mhm.
that you can switch out for
Yeah.
a slightly different unit. That's a that's a war band.
Yeah, okay, no, I can see that, but I suppose, I think the more time would be best represented by something like XCOM.
Yeah.
I mean,
What
XCOM
did
is
you
just science fiction more time. Are you about to say Mechanicus?
well, I was gonna say, what did you think of City of the Damned?
To my eternal shame, I never played it,
Oh,
because
that's like the
I
one game that we got.
I know, but I loved more time the tabletop version so much that I was like, I don't want to play I don't want to play something
Mhm.
that is kind of that might almost ruin that. Is that a
That's
bad
fair.
example?
That's
Like
fair. Yeah, I get that.
Vermintide, great.
Vermintide is really good, yeah. I'm yet to play Darktide, but I'm excited.
Well, we just need to find a couple of other players, Steve, and then we've got a great little party going.
I mean, name the day.
Name of the day.
Uh,
So you were telling us about your Warhammer journey, and
yes,
we got
sorry,
distracted
yeah.
by undead. No, no, no. My apologies. I was the one that
So
interrupted.
yes, I was big into it as a kid slash teenager, and then yeah, completely fell off, like a lot of people do. I understand, and
It is a tale, as Bell once said, as old as time.
yeah, though it's interesting because obviously you fall out of the modeling hobby side of it, but the IP is there all the way through because like you say, it was Dawn of War 1 and then Dawn of War 2, never Dawn of War 3. But like now we've got Total War, which is fantastic.
It's glorious.
Even Space Marine was good. I liked Fire Warrior in spite of the fact that it wasn't a good game.
But
Mechanicus is brilliant.
that's a great example, Fire Warrior, of
Mm,
how powerful this IP is. And like,
yes.
uh, you know, as nerdy boys that were taken the Michael out of at school for liking nerdy hobbies,
Mm,
um, it's so cool to see like like the mainstreamification of nerddom in general, whether
yeah,
that's
mostly, yeah.
critical role doing D&D, like Call of Duty being so huge when it was like a nerdy World War II game that you really liked back in the day, all that jazz. But it
Slight barb there. Yeah, go on.
go on.
It was once a really good World War II game, wasn't it? That we all liked.
Oh right, yeah, no, sorry. The past tense there in that
Yeah.
quote wasn't meant to be a criticism,
No, it
but
it
yeah, I can see that. I
accidentally
can see
was though.
it's a yeah, it's
Yeah.
absolutely true. Oh, can you imagine if they invested all that time? Like the thing is, the tactical thing sells, doesn't it?
I still remember crossing the river into Stalingrad in that I think it was
Yeah,
first game.
yeah, and
That was
you don't get given a rifle. You
you
have to
get
follow
yeah,
someone
the guy in
that
front of you gets given a
yeah,
rifle. It was
yeah.
so good.
Oh, and as someone who's like, in top 5 favorite films, growing up was Enemy at the Gates.
Mhm.
Like that is
Yep.
glorious. Oh yeah, and there is literally like a kind of Enemy at the Gates replicant scene, isn't there?
Yes.
It's like in the
Yeah.
fountain, wait until the
You have to
yeah.
be the runner for the sniper. It's brilliant.
Oh, wait until the artillery shell strikes and all that jazz.
Yeah, and the
So good, so
crossing of the
good.
Red Square with you got the commissar behind you who is just merrily shooting people when he's not
Yeah.
screaming into a megaphone. It's
Also
fantastic.
tangential to 40K. I like what you did
Exactly.
there, Steve. Very
Exactly.
smoothly done. But yeah, so like this whole IP is so it's so strong that regardless of how good the actual game was. Like, if Fire Warrior wasn't set in the 41st millennium and it wasn't embedded within that kind of deep, rich, relatable lore, like, would you
I
have
don't think
given it?
either of us would even have heard about it, would we?
Absolutely. It would be yet another game that,
Mm.
like, for example, the Wheel of Time book series by Robert Jordan, which was recently made into a average Amazon Prime show. There is a
Mhm.
computer game version of that, which
Oh,
the
yeah.
only reason I think people have even played it is because it relates to an incredibly popular series of fantasy books.
Oh,
It
poor
is
game.
otherwise forgettable and just just not that good. Um, but that speaks to the strength of the Warhammer IP,
Yeah,
um,
it's
which I
it's
think is great. Like, if you have something that powerful that can carry something like
yeah,
Fire Warrior, like, you've got to be onto a good thing, right?
you should be.
If only we had a dashingly handsome, charming CEO to help market it.
Well, speaking of dashingly handsome, I am genuinely excited to see what Amazon and Henry do with the IP.
I did see a Reddit post recently that he's in talks with Anna de Armas for it. For I
Mm.
don't know where. I didn't read the article. I merely screenshotted it and sent it to a friend. But I hope everyone's incredibly good looking. That's
Well,
what
I hope
40k
they
needs
get.
to be, right?
I hope they get a bunch of very good-looking actors and they make them absolutely repulsive for the
Anna de
show.
Armas, what are you playing? Are you playing like a seductive? No, I'm a service girl.
I want her to play a servitor
Yeah, can you imagine?
with most of her head missing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, just massive bionics all over the
Yeah.
shop. It's like,
Yep.
is that is
It's,
that is that
that
Anna de
is
Armas under there?
that is her, isn't it? Yeah.
Or just a machine spirit voice. Like, who?
Oh no, that's not
What did
nearly as
what did
fun.
you what did you play? I played a Land Raider.
Yeah, they prayed to me and then they crashed me. Yeah.
My twin link lance cannons missed.
Yeah, but yes, we got diverted again. I had that experience. The IP stuck with me because it does. It's very good. And then yeah, completely by accident, I got pulled in to do audio dramas with Games Workshop. A very talented man by the name of Matt Renshaw plucked me from total obscurity and said, "Oh, I like the way you scream, boy." And then yeah,
That's what everyone wants to hear.
yeah. In my case specifically, it was exactly what I wanted to hear. And yeah, he just kept putting me in stuff, and it was very good. And then we did a bunch more stuff. I got to be Gazkul. I got to be
Wow, you got to be Gazgul.
yeah. I am the canon voice of Gazkul, which is cool.
In which book's that?
I think it was Eye of the Beast. There we go. Yeah, Saga of the Beast.
Saga of the Beast. Not
Yeah.
one I've listened to yet, but that Audible credit's not going to spend itself.
Yeah, being able to speak High Gothic in Orky was a lot of fun. And then yeah, I'm Joseph Bugman. So that's very cool.
Now, well, here's a question for you: which character have you enjoyed playing the most? You've just name dropped some pretty big deals in the 41st millennium and the old
yes,
world.
so the Realm Slayer one was very fun, but I think in terms of character, I mean, there's some real close runners up. Hamilcar was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Joseph Bugman was fun because one of the jobs, one of the things they had me do as Joseph Bugman was I don't think they ever implemented it, but it was supposed to be half hourly PA announcements in Bugman's at the HQ.
Oh no. I mean, Steve, like, love your work and all that, but for what? For what reason?
For no reason. You were
for
just
atmosphere. Hashtag atmosphere.
For atmosphere. And it was one of those where you kind of get in the room, and this happens more often than you'd like to admit. It would, like, especially with like voice acting, is you get in the room and they give you the script and they say, here we go, have a couple of minutes read of that, and then let's do it. And you look and you go, there's 3 lines here, and they're like, yep. And it was like, well, why don't we do some variants, kind of mix things up. And we ended up doing a bunch of stuff. And still, I was thinking to myself at the end of the day, every half hour, huh? Really,
Now,
really, every half hour.
as anyone that's
Hmm.
played a long game of 40k or something in a local games
Oh
workshop in the early 2000s or something like that, that playlist isn't going to repeat any more times than
nope.
necessary.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely not. So it did not surprise me at all that they never implemented that, but it was still very fun.
I bet. I
Um,
bet.
but yeah, the number one absolute fun job was Gazkul. Just yeah, you can't beat how much fun it is being an orc.
In voice acting or live?
Both.
A little bit of both. A little bit of
A little
both.
bit of both. Yeah, being an orc is. I've been demons. I've been sorcerers. I've been necromancers. I've been cryptomancers. I've been
This has the feel
mechanists.
of a bit of poetry or a lyric. I've been necromancers, I've been cryptomancers, but nothing compares
Nothing
to being
compares
the
to being
blaster
an orc.
master that is raw. I love it. I love it. God, just
Uh,
seeing like Gazgul, I think you could do like a good as people have been doing with kind of goth rockers, like a Gazgul DJ set. I can see
oh,
that.
I would be up for that. You know.
What would
Um,
Gazgul's DJ name be?
ooh, DJ Mag Thragger?
Yeah? DJ
No.
Armageddon?
DJ Armageddon. Ooh.
I think that's possibly a listeners in the comments
Yes.
/ write in. What would Gaskell Thraka's DJ name be?
MC Biggest Git.
Oh, like that. Like that.
Yeah, difficult. Because no, I think if he was going to pick a name, Gaskell would absolutely pick something in High Gothic.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, definitely.
One of my closest friends is has a classics degree,
Yeah,
and
there we go then.
anything in High Gothic, every single time I see a good little lore snippet that's like
Mhm.
technically incorrect Latin,
Oh,
which is about 99% of every bit of High Gothic that's ever been written.
yeah.
I just send it to him. I'm just like, Chris, what does this say in Latin? I've stumbled across this in a text. I'm not familiar with it. And he's just like, oh, stop sending me incorrect
It means
grammatical.
nothing.
It means nothing. It's not real. I didn't spend 4 years at Edinburgh University to be sent Warhammer. Lucky he's a big nerd like me, so he knows he knows the source.
So I have a lot of sympathy with your friend because we have those arguments in the booth a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, like technically it's codices.
Well, my pet peeve is Medicae
Okay.
because it's Medicae
Yeah.
and it drives me absolutely insane every time I have to read it out in the wrong way because that's the canon way. It drives me absolutely up the wall.
Not Adeptus Custodes.
No, that
That
one's
just
fine.
that breaks me. That it's
That one's fine.
yeah.
That one's fine. There are a couple. The very first bit of fan mail I ever got was someone correcting my pronunciation of a planet.
Oh, that's glorious. A,
Was
which planet, and B, what happened next?
You've never heard of the planet before because it wasn't canon. It was made up for the audio drama, which I took extreme pleasure in relaying back to this idiot.
Oh, that's so
I don't
good.
know where you got your information, but that doesn't exist.
Oh,
Um,
I think you'll find in White Dwarf 1963, blah blah blah.
no,
What is it about now kind of perhaps going on to a slightly more serious question, what is it about fandoms in general that obsess about the minutia? Why do you think people are so resistant to new ideas within existing fandoms, whether that be 40k, whether that be in Star Wars, whatever? Like, what do you think it is that makes people so protective over something?
they care about it. I think it's a maybe frustrating symptom of an ultimately good thing. I think the flip side of that is when you get people like me who have done a relatively small thing as part of a relatively niche thing, and the fan base almost universally rally around me and make a big deal out of me and make me feel nice and special. The flip side of that is being very annoyed about it when someone gets the spelling wrong, as they should. I think it becomes like, I don't think it's any different to people getting flustered when people get stuff that I think arguably matters more wrong, if that makes sense. You see it when Oh god, I'm trying to think of a good example, and I can't think of one off the top of my head. I've run out of Pepsi Max. It's all falling apart. Um,
Think of something that isn't female Space Marines. Think of something that isn't female Space Marines.
I wasn't thinking about female
Mm.
Space Marines. I do have an official stance on female Space Marines, which is whatever Games Workshop end up doing will be the correct one.
Well, naturally.
Yeah. But yeah, female Space Marines, I think, is a bad example
Yeah,
of
no, I'm again only being facetious for the
yeah,
sake of.
because I think that is different. I think a better example is the Age of Sigmar one. I think.
Okay, the sort of the old world versus Age of Sigmar kind of.
Yeah, debate.
I mean, the best bit there, Steve, is that it isn't a debate. No one is saying one is right or wrong, right? One is merely a product that Games Workshop currently sell, and one is merely a product that Games Workshop previously sold.
Well, see,
And
the debate I've read on the debate I've read in some spaces is that they should never have changed it. What Age of Sigmar is terrible.
oh, I mean,
why? Why did
obviously,
they?
I
Why
am
did
but
they ever take away what we love?
but I'm
And
but a mere shill. Are we not all mere shills for the corporation?
I do have sympathy with that viewpoint because if it's something that you really care about and it feels like someone is so much not respecting it, but like I guess it feels like they are in some way taking it away from you slightly
hmm
or changing it to something you don't recognize or even just in your eyes getting it slightly wrong when it comes to, for instance, pronunciations or whatever. I think yeah, it can really upset isn't the right word, but frustrate. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
just because
I've got a
just
personal
because
example of that actually.
yeah, go on.
So, um, used to be massively into, I suppose, like the competitive scene of Age of Sigmar in the UK.
Mm,
Um, one of even started up an Age of Sigmar podcast called Priority Roll, which I've kind of since scrapped. I was really invested into Age of Sigmar as a game, having strangely not been that interested in Warhammer Fantasy as a tournament level. Always, hugely into the lore, the background, the books. Had collections as a kid growing up, but never was into the game as a kind of social mechanic slash gaming mechanic.
mm,
And when they, Games Workshop was saying, "Oh, this big announcement coming up, big announcement coming up," and then they released this kind of, well, the big announcements is the Old World as a game. I personally felt this really weird. I don't know how to describe it, but it was almost like the thing that I had become so invested in as a game. I'd formed friendships over this game. I'd met people purely at Age of Sigmar tournaments who I, having never been to a Warhammer Fantasy Battle tournament, despite them being, kind of notable tournament gamers in previous editions, I had only ever met through Age of Sigmar, and I would never have
mm,
met had I not played Age of Sigmar. It was almost like, not that it was being taken away, but it was almost like it was being attacked somewhat, and
mm.
that therefore by by the next two steps or so that I was being attacked. And I think that's clearly something I need to work through with my therapist a little bit, but I think that's something that I think people feel quite personally, is when something that they are so invested in, there's the insinuation that that isn't valid, isn't allowed, isn't good, isn't right, isn't
Mm,
correct, isn't not current. It's a short hop from this isn't currently sold. It's a psychologically short step. It's a perhaps logical long step between this is not currently being sold by Games Workshop. This is not current. This is not right. You are not right, etc., etc. And I think for especially Warhammer as a hobby is often quite I suppose like a refuge, a bit of escapism away from that. And when that's threatened, that's very easy to feel threatened yourself.
yeah, I think there is a deeper thing going on here as well, where like, and I will touch on this incredibly lightly because this is another 2 hour conversation.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
But I think there is an element of I can't remember who I heard talking about this, but as the again the political climate like moves in a certain direction and people feel their political power as an individual being taken away, they become more invested in terms of their influence as a consumer and their kind of cultural credit rather than if because they don't feel they have any political influence. And I think yeah, like you can't, if you feel totally powerless when it comes to who's in charge, the one thing that you can exert influence over is you can boycott that game that you love if they do something wrong. And it kind of gives you a bit of your agency back.
Oh, this is something that I've done in real life. I basically so in 2021 I went through a divorce, and it was in sort of 2020 and 2021 was really struggling with my mental health and my life. I
That
mean,
would have been
this
that
isn't
would have
even
been
a
during
joke. I wish I
coronavirus.
wish this was but
Jesus.
I like the idea of this being the build up to a punchline, but sadly it isn't. And genuinely, like I'm only sort of saying this because perhaps someone out there is going through something similar.
Yeah.
I went through lots of fairly intense things emotionally and mentally, and I was making decisions based on I think if they were made without that context, people would say, "Oh, that's a bit rash." But actually, looking back on it, it was something that I could control. It
Yeah.
was something that I could exert influence over. And I made kind of professional decisions that had like not life changing consequences, but I made fairly like stark professional decisions based on the fact that that's what I felt was right. And the reason I
Mm.
felt that was right was because I desperately craved in a world where the my spouse who I'd pledged to till death do us part and everything and my whole social and domestic dynamic had fallen apart. I was looking for something to grab hold of and say, I'm in charge of this. I can make this decision. This is mine. And I
Hmm.
think, without wanting to kind of sound too grandiose about it, like I feel like that's the same to cotton on to what you were saying there, Steve, was
Mm.
I feel like that's the same in the hobby space.
Yeah.
People are frustrated. There are changes. Whether you're a narrative gamer and you don't like how seasonal and Apex Legendary Warhammer has become with 6 monthly updates. Whether that's the case, or whether you're really really into squats and they've released the Legions of Votan and you don't like the Leagues of Votan rather, and you don't like that because they don't have trains and stuff.
I mean,
What
everyone loved the Leagues of Votan.
I
So
mean,
don't get.
right? Like who doesn't? But to kind of latch on something that you can control is really important to people because people don't like to feel powerless, do they?
I know. I think it's extremely difficult to just have that feeling without it becoming, without doing something about it, or it becoming something quite damaging to you. It's one or the other. You either have to find, like you say, something that you can kind of anchor yourself to in terms of how you are engaging with the world, or yeah, I think it ends up doing you a mischief.
Or you let go of that and you say, this isn't important. I don't need to worry about this. I'm just going to let people do their own thing with their little plastic toys. But in doing so, you're essentially saying, if this isn't important, why have I invested so much of myself into it?
Yeah, I mean, you're checking
Therefore,
out
that was
effectively.
a waste.
Like,
Therefore,
yeah,
that was a waste of and then you get into
like I say, it can do you a mischief.
it can certainly.
But ultimately, that's why I think James Workshop is so great.
Yeah.
Yes, because no, I don't know. I
Yeah,
was,
where
I
we
was,
go with
I
this?
was
Where we go
really
with
stretching there for a segue, and it didn't come.
you're like I can it's approaching 9:30. I think Dan wants to go to bed. Fine. We'll bring this back to Jane's workshop. Fine. Um,
Throw out the fishing rod, and I hit
look,
nothing.
you didn't even get a Magikarp.
I didn't get a Magikarp.
On the subject of things that are super important to people, we've
Yes.
touched on more time. We touched on the old world. Games Workshop are releasing more and more content, sort of preview content about the old world game.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're excited about?
Yeah. The short answer is it's absolutely yes. Like yourself, I grew up with it, so it's no matter what came after it, no matter how good it was, how good it was, I was always going to have that nostalgic like glow for the old world. And yeah, especially having now played all three Total War Warhammers, I think I'm even more invested in the old world than I was before.
Yeah,
So yeah, definitely, really looking forward to that.
I feel like it's the right time to bring it back.
Yeah,
You know, we transitioned from the old world, or we transitioned from Warhammer Fantasy Battles into the Age of Sigmar for a reason.
Hmm.
fine. But with, I suppose, the context of, Warhammer Total War, with the context of, Netflix and Henry Cavill and everything, I think if you were going to revisit a previous version of the game and update it, like now is that time.
Yes.
Had they released, and this is I think the key point for me is, had whatever the old world is, whatever form it takes, for all we know, it could be 15 mil, it could be War Master. Well, yeah, apparently it's not. It's 28 mil, and it's fairly not predictable. It's the wrong word, but it's a kind of traditional version. But
Mm.
whatever form it took, had that been, I want to say 10th edition, was 9th edition, the last version of Fantasy, whatever it was, had the addition that Age of Sigmar was, had that been what we're going to get as the old world, I don't necessarily think that that would have been great, because we've got the old world within the context of the Age of Sigmar, within the context of Warcry existing within the Age of Sigmar universe.
Hmm.
Blood Bowl has remained within the old world universe. You don't have Stormcast Blood Bowl teams, do you? They
Somehow,
are.
yeah.
They are. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's. Don't say that too loudly. That's just a product away from happening. But without I think for me, without losing the old world, you can't market it as a specialist game, and you can't kind of say this is a kind of return to the glory days, as it were. And I like to think that it's gonna be supported in the same way that Age of Sigmar is, with kind of consistent releases. But it will, Age of Sigmar, I think, is going to be the primary game.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think my concern almost would be the opposite. That if they had released it before now, if they had released it before Age of Sigmar had managed to get really properly established, then Age of Sigmar would have been completely lost.
Oh, absolutely.
I think if I were them, and I'm not, and let me stress, but if
And
I were Games
this is
Workshop,
if Steve was there, not if James Workshop. This is absolutely
yeah,
a conversation with the person, not the character.
yeah, exactly. But if I was them, I would be more concerned about people flocking back to the old world and abandoning Age of Sigmar than I would be about them just not being interested in the old world. Just because I think, like, still Age of Sigmar has come on hugely, and there are bits of it that I really like. Still, the old world has 30 years of having been fleshed out, and like has so much pedigree that it's difficult to hold one up next to the other, and for Age of Sigmar to not seem thin in comparison. But I mean, nothing can be done about that. And I think they've held off long enough now that Age of Sigmar has enough about it that they can still be like, this is the primary game, like you say. But yeah, so I think that's from people I have spoken to, that was the concern rather than the other way around. But I mean, I haven't actually spoken to anyone on the design team for either game, so I actually don't know if that's true.
Don't worry, I'm not looking for exclusive insights or anything like that. It's the game.
And even if I was willing to give them, I don't have any. They
But so
keep me.
now's your chance to make something up. I can't
Oh
wait for the Adeptus Astartes to be reinforcing the Tillian Dogs of War.
no, I mean what I'm definitely not allowed to talk about is like the 7 or 8 Warhammer TV specials, all centered around James Workshop.
Is it true that Henry Cavill will be your sidekick in the upcoming Netflix series?
No, but Henry. I want to air dirty laundry, but Henry probably isn't going to be working with me specifically anytime soon, because I did turn him down. I did snub him quite hard when he asked me to come help him make a show.
Oh,
So when he asked me to come make a show, he said, "I'm out of my depth.
yeah.
I'm talking to all these people at Amazon, and they're all very clever,
Oh, the
and they're
worst.
asking me to do maths and things." And he's never been good at maths, bless him.
No, no.
And he said, "I just
And
need,
they
I
want him to do a
need."
shirtless scene, and he's not that confident.
Oh, bless him. He's really not, especially because he went out of his way to
What,
accidentally.
Scrawny Henry?
Yeah, he tried so hard, and if you
And
look
he
at
got so
him,
far.
And he got so far.
He got so far, but
And,
what?
and in the end,
What? Let me guess. It didn't.
it didn't.
It didn't really matter.
It didn't really matter.
Oh, Henry, what's he like?
Oh, bless it. He's
He tries.
he tries.
He tries.
You
I think
know,
that's all you can say, really.
that's all you can say about Henry Cavill. All you can say about him is that
Henry,
he tries.
he tries Cavill.
That's that's his nickname.
I mean, for goodness sake, this man, it's like his brother's a Royal Marine commanding officer or something like that. Like, you know, the Cavill gene seed is strong. Let's say. Bless
Yeah,
him.
that's a good way of putting it.
Well, Steve, I've thoroughly enjoyed chatting to you about
Good.
all things Warhammer. However, it is getting on, and it is a weekday evening. It is a school night, so I
Yes.
shan't steal too much more of your time. In the interest of the everlasting PR machine that we have discussed, is there anything you want to promote or shout out at the moment?
No. I if I had been really clever when I first realized that for anyone who doesn't know, the reason I am about to appear on every hobby podcast that you've ever heard of,
And some that you haven't, like this
and
one.
some that you haven't, then the reason you're about to get really sick of the sound of my voice is that I've recently discovered that my agent had been ignoring all calls for interviews and podcasts. So now I'm doing all of them by mistake. And if I'd been very clever, I would have waited to announce that until I had something to promote.
Oh yeah,
I have nothing.
Like being on the Graham Norton show.
Absolutely.
And be like, so what is it you're here for? Just for the lols.
I just had a free evening, mate. Yeah, that's effectively the position I'm in now, and it is. Yeah, no one I've spoken to about it can quite believe that I've done this. Just cashed in all of my chips. But yeah, I guess follow me on Twitter, I guess, is all I can say. And if I do have anything fun to announce, it'll be there.
Excellent. And that is at Steve Pendus without the second E.
Stev Pendus.
Stev Pendus. I should be pronouncing it like that. Oh, are you correcting my pronunciation?
That's well.
Have we come full circle?
That's how you know I'm a fan. You see.
Oh, there we go. And to come full circle, I'll finish on a little story when Henry of Cavill fame first started posting pictures of his custodies, and it was first revealed that he was into 40k. I attempted to slide into his DMs on Instagram with the podcast Instagram channel. Went, hey, would you like to come on to Ashes of the Imperium to talk about Warhammer? Sadly, he left me on red.
Oh, how unprofessional!
Outrageous. So Henry, I'm disappointed. When you listen to this, I'm disappointed. Not angry, of course.
You know he does listen to hobby podcasts while he paints. Apparently.
Wow, outrageous.
So I'm going to make sure I smear his name on every one I go on, just in case.
Good man, Steve. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for your time tonight. And
same. Thank you.
Hopefully, we will throw some dice on a tabletop sometime in the future.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah. You can see how you fare against my Auric brutes.
Oh, you're an Iron Jaws fan. I knew you were a good lad, but now that you've confirmed that you're an Iron Jaws fan, we're definitely best of friends.
I've got 5 green fridges with your name on them.
Right, so team, if you like what you've heard, obviously follow Steve at Stev Pendus on Twitter. We are, of course, at AOTI 40k on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and our new YouTube channel. And until next time, we wish you all the best. Keep calm and crusade on.
Bye.